What's going on, guys? My name is Joe Graves, and this is So You Want to Be a Rock Star. I'm joined today by my two co-hosts, my dear brother, Sam Graves, and our one and only friend, Mike Kingswood.
On this show, we talk about all things music related, from touring, music production, and just a general insight to the music industry from our eyes.
And if any of that sounds good to you, then please like, share, subscribe, but most importantly, sit back, relax, take off your bra if you like, and
Me?
enjoy the show. Yes, you, Sam.
Oh,
Good.
good. Oh, what's the
I
different
thought it was the end of
sizes too?
EastEnders.
Hello.
Hello.
What are we talking about today, guys?
Let's do an insight to songwriting and production.
Songwriting. Okay.
Songwriting,
I'm
music
down with that.
production.
I like that. I do a lot of that.
Yeah, I don't anymore. We used to do loads. Back in the day, I think songwriting is very different now because people do it on their laptops. And then, well, one person in a band does it on their laptop and sends it to the rest of the guys.
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
So-
This is what you're playing.
yeah, this is what you're playing. But it used to be very much going to a rehearsal room and one dude would start playing a riff and there'd either be a nod, like a or there'd be a yeah.
No, or they'd want their riff because, you know, we all want equal cuts in this band.
yeah, that's right. So back in the day, how the hell would you write a song? Where do you even begin? I do know these days you can basically formulate it, and there's different opinions on that. Some
Yeah.
people are like, you should, and some people are like, you shouldn't. But I say, even if you don't, you're going to do it by accident anyway.
Yeah,
So,
I'm a very formulated songwriter. Not very, but I have structures that I stick to. And there's like, you know, as in verse, pre-chorus, chorus. Second time around, maybe the pre-chorus is half the time. Maybe there's a fluctuation on the second verse, do you know what I mean? But generally speaking...
maybe there's a harmony on the second verse.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Ooh, do you know what I mean? Whoa,
Some things happen on every
crazy.
single pop song, don't they?
Yeah. But generally speaking, yeah, I mean, there's not really a formula. There's not like something that you should and shouldn't do, but there's tips you could take on board. Like, don't go off on one massive, like, try and get to your chorus fairly swiftly. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
these were rules we would have
Yeah, I
from
remember.
labels and stuff
Yeah.
when you're producing certain songs. I mean, there's been a couple of instances where we've had, a band, whatever, doing an album, and label guy or whatever's come along and been like, there has to be 3 singles on this album. And by that, it means chorus within 30 seconds.
yeah, within 30 seconds,
Yeah.
and your song is
No
no
swearing.
longer, your song is no longer than 320.
That's right.
No
Yeah.
longer.
And those are some basic rules, and a lot of times bands don't like that, but it's like, but do you like being on the radio?
Yeah.
So you got
Do
to
you
pick
like
one.
growing the brand that you've been working tirelessly for the last 20 years? You know what I mean? I get it. I don't sell out and be like, oh, we'll do whatever the label says, but there is a balance. There is like, okay, well, maybe on the album we can have a few 7-minuters, you know what I mean? Like that we do, but also we're going to have to release a single that's going to have to get on the radio. It's going to have to be a...
I always had a really good analogy for this, where it's like, what if you'd broken your toilet and you hired a plumber? He was like, I want to fit a sink. It's like, it's my toilet's broken. Can you do that? No, I just want to fit a sink. It's like, I'm not going to fucking pay you then. I'm not going to hire you. You go away, And there's kind of a bit of do what you want in a band, because that's why you're in a band. You want to do things on your terms. But there's also a bit of like, this works and this doesn't. So sometimes it makes sense to follow a formula. Maybe not a formula, but all the best things in the world, and by best I mean successful, have templates. Look at every business. They'll have systems for generating leads. They'll have systems for closing deals. When you fix a car, there'll be check this first, check that. Everything has systems.
Yeah.
And it's okay to accept that maybe you can use one as a start point for a song. You don't have to.
Yeah.
You might even have a riff when you're like, I just love this riff, and you might be able to be like, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to do next. Maybe chuck it into some kind of generic formula at first and then play with it.
Yeah.
That's a good way
I
to
mean,
do it.
it's very vague to be like, oh, this is how. I mean, every song is different. Every person is different. How you feel at the time when you're doing it, what the song's about. Do you know what I mean? But generally speaking, you can formulate something and then start from there. It's a good place, and you can literally Google. You can Google like chorus structures like AABA or ABAB, but there's a fluctuation on the second beat. Do you know what I mean? There is stuff you could do, but.
Absolutely. There's tons of compilations out there, isn't there? Like on YouTube of like all the biggest pop songs in the world where they are basically the same.
Yeah.
So what does make them different? It's like slightly different lyrics.
It's
Different voice.
something that we've noticed actually is harmonies. I know that harmonies sound good, but harmonies also take away from the kind of feeling of the main vocal. And
Well, it's a psychological choice,
yeah,
isn't it?
it's like when there's a harmony on it, it's not just the lead singer anymore. So if it's the lead singer harmonizing himself, you take that human factor away. I don't know, some subconscious psychological thing. So we've noticed it, and it was "Firework" by Katy Perry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not one fucking harmony on that whole song. And
Do you know what it was? It was when we blindly all started recording music, and you kind of just do things. You go to flow. That sounds good, and you can't help but you can't resist put harmonies on everything because
yeah,
it's,
you know,
it's
it sounds
exciting
good.
musically.
Oh, yeah, I was doing that.
But it often doesn't work.
Tastefully do it.
That's right. And you can be like, well, hang on, let's listen to all these massive songs out there, like biggest songs in the world. It's like, okay, it's isolated. Why is that? You have to think about this.
Yeah.
You can't ignore.
That's the thing, like the Katy Perry thing, great example. There was not just one dude like, oh yeah, well, it doesn't sound very good. There's a lot of people involved in that decision.
Yeah.
They went, no harmonies on that song. Why? Do you know what I mean? And it was a very successful song.
I think there's a couple of tiny ones, like last chorus or whatever.
Maybe.
But, a classic one we all noticed was second verse. That's when it starts to come in.
Yeah.
And the odd bit. But it's just, well, I mean, we'll get into this one a bit later, but it ties in with recording. How sometimes, a band might say, can you put the same mix on this? I love that guitar tone you did on that album. Can you put it on ours? Yeah, sure. And it doesn't sound the same.
Doesn't
The reason it doesn't-
necessarily work.
Yeah, because it's not the same layering decisions. It's not the same composition. It's not the same thing. So how can it sound the same? A lot of songwriting is like, how do I want this to be in the album? And you can make decisions. Even things like, Machine Head, they did that album where it was only what they could do live. And that was cool. And that added to the sort of lore of who they are and what they do. It added to the entire brand. You're like, we don't do that. We don't layer this, blah, blah, blah. Which is cool. It adds to the fuck you attitude they've got. But then some bands are like, if it works, it's going in there. You get some projects like 300 tracks, and it's like,
Yeah.
shit, man, how are you going to do that live? The answer is they don't care because it makes a better song.
They have a rack that
Yeah.
plays everything.
Yeah, exactly that, yeah.
Something else. This is going back to like, let's say no one's heard of you, and you're writing some songs. Please stick to one fucking tempo, man. For the love of God, just stick to. Maybe the chorus might fluctuate. Maybe the beat kind of like sounds like it's rushing a touch or something like that. Maybe have to drop it one or two, but stop with your fucking tempo changes, man. It does my head in.
Sometimes I open up a tempo map and it'll look like New York.
What's that Mount fucking Rushmore? And you're like, please, like, what I mean by that is like, say if you're at a festival or something like that, you're like, oh, there's a band that we've never heard of. Let's go check them out or something like that. Or you just happen to be walking past. You're just getting into a beat and you're like, oh, this is good. And then it fucking changes. You're like, well, bored now, off. Let them, I don't know.
There was a time though where it was the thing to do.
tempo
Early day
changes.
crabcore, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Your song wasn't as good
Just,
if it didn't just change tempo out of nowhere for
Just
no
what-
reason.
It depends
into
what
a
you're trying to
totally
do,
different
doesn't it?
song.
Yeah, it's like if you're going for the whole commercial vibe, you do
change
have
tempo.
to. No, you have to stick to certain things. Like keep that tempo the same, keep that rhythm. There's science behind this. I don't know it, but I know I do know why certain decisions are being made over and over and over. Because what have we recorded? 1,000 songs more. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
And
more.
there's certain things that people do and people don't, and some things it's just like an absolute mood killer, isn't it? When you're like, oh yeah, like do, and then just drops or goes, and it's like,
just goes into 3/4 or something.
yeah, it's like it's heart
like,
pumping
come
to
on
a certain rhythm, and it just goes, and it's like, oh,
Yeah, gone now.
mood gone, right, done.
Maybe it's like the end of a song or something. A lot of bands do that, where it's like some sort of like, let's talk about metal, like some sort of fucking mental breakdown or something, and it might change. That's all right, but getting back to the song tempo from doing that in the middle or something like that, man, you've lost a lot of people.
Yeah.
You've lost any listener that's just listening to you, like just finding out who you are. You've lost them. Stick to a fucking tempo. Go with it. Like if it's 120, it's 120, mate. Stay there. Be fine.
Well, Sam, you do a lot of actual song recording.
Yeah,
When a band,
sure do.
let's say a band comes in, like, here's a song.
yeah,
Where do you begin? I know it'll start with maybe, can I hear it? Have you got a demo?
yeah. I'd like to hear it always.
What do you do? Do you critique it first or what?
Yeah, I mean, I did this for a guy on Instagram the other day, like literally 2 days ago. He messaged me a few weeks ago. I listened to it. You know, you get caught up in life. He messaged me again. Have you listened to it? Actually, yes, I have. And this is what we're talking about, how like people can get precious over riffs. And, you know, I said to this guy, you know, it's nearly 2 minutes or whatever until they hit the chorus. You know, there's a nice riff, and sometimes when you make a nice riff and you're proud of it, you loop it for
With every
24
beat,
bars.
every variation of beat.
Yeah, every variation of beat, you know. And then I said to him, well, it could do with some extra layering, some atmospheric. It was like a clean verse, and it was just the same clean verse. I didn't pick up at any point. So for me, the song's always got to build.
Yeah.
Always.
That's how I do it as well.
Yeah. So like we're talking about harmonies. I'm not saying no vocal harmonies in the first verse, but allow the second verse to pick up. And how are you going to do that if you've already put everything in the first verse?
Yeah.
An upbeat drum beat, or just a solid drum beat. The bass is pumping. You've got clean guitars. I don't know, with a bit of light picking in the background or something like that. Vocal harmony. Cymbals like crashing everywhere, and the verse has peaked already. So I try, and maybe what I would do is focus on the second verse.
Yeah.
And then when we start to rebuild the first verse, I'm taking parts out.
Yeah.
That's gonna like reverse engineering it.
Reverse engineering it, yeah. Even like the final chorus. So for me, minus the vocal. What's potentially going to be there in the final chorus? Octave chords, strumming guitars, some delayed guitar, light, clicky guitar in the background, maybe. I don't know.
Filling the spectrum.
Yeah, just really filling it, and then so we'll put that into the other choruses. And what can we take out where it still feels like a chorus, but it's not the full peaked version? So that's what I would start with, especially when we're making, what we talk like a commercial kind of song. And although it sounds easy, and it would be like, well, you're just selling out, or you're going, you're going down that, commercial direction, I guess. It's actually very hard to accomplish, because it's hard when it's your own song to take parts out that you're happy with, that you love and you made yourself. And honestly, the mental battle is difficult.
Yeah, mate,
it really is.
This is the whole Joey Sturgis thing. Go into a bigger producer or something like that. You cannot be bothered about your feelings. They don't care.
No, it's about the music. It's about the song.
They know what they're doing. They've got platinum discs on the wall. They know what they're talking about, and they don't care about your feelings. And you have to have thick skin. Yeah. So, like one of our songs, Glamour and the Kill song, Second Chance, well different. It had this whole part after the first verse, before the pre-chorus, where it was like all this offbeat kind of thing. It was like all this shit, and it was all weird, offbeat and whatever. And Joey Sturgis went, "No." We're like, "Oh, but I really like that." He was like, "No." You're going straight into the pre-chorus, and you're doing the chorus. We were like, "Cool."
Yeah, you could have spent hours on this section, and you've got this emotional bond with it, whether it's even good or not.
And I remember at the time I was like sat in the chair and I was like, "Oh, fucking hell, I'm the songwriter. These are my songs." I couldn't hear it any different other way now. Do you know what I mean? Like,
well, you get what
right.
You get what I call demoitis.
Yeah, demoitis.
You've made
Demoitis,
it. You've made it. You've heard it. You've heard it that way for so long that any variation of it is wrong. Should we give him a moment?
Got a fucking fly trying to get my mouth in.
For anyone who's just listened, there's a fucking fly in here.
Doing my tits in. Right, okay, demoitis.
There's actually two flies in here, one there and one there. So, you get demoitis. Yeah. And you know what? As an outsider of the band or the musician, myself, or, all right, not you when you're talking about Glamour of the Kill because it was your band, but when bands are coming to me and I'm producing their song or helping them try and restructure it or put some structure there at all, I'm not going to say it's easy to do, because it depends how creative you are. I don't want to say how creative you're feeling that day, because you don't just decide whether to be creative or not. You have good days and you have bad days. Yeah. Some days I cannot put two notes together, and sometimes I'll write a song with a band or, so let's say, the main songwriter, and we can write this thing, record this thing, ready for vocals and mix in 4 hours. Yeah. It's good to go. We have those days. Yeah. I've written songs for bands and I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. And way back in the day, we used to do it a hell of a lot more. It's like, how much more is it for you to write a song with us or for us? And you're always hustling. When we're younger. Sometimes it'd be, actually, sometimes I would think it'll be quicker for me to write a song for them.
Yes.
And because I'm writing it, and we can talk about this another time or later on in this episode. Sometimes, especially when you're writing a song, it's not always the band members playing the instruments.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, almost every song you've ever listened to, it was probably not the guitarist playing. It was probably not the drummer playing.
Do you know how many times the band has left and go, right, see you later, man, see you. And I'm like, right, fucking, let's do that again then. And they come back and they're like, wow, this sounds great. And I'm like, yeah, dude,
I can't believe how well I
you're
play.
so good, man.
How did you get that pinch harmonic to sound totally different?
Just a bit of a, you know, auto tune.
No, but seriously, you know, it's not a sacrifice from the band, but sometimes, yeah, I would go, well, you know what? If I'm writing this song with you or mostly for you, let's work together on the guitars. I'll play some parts if I write a riff. It's quicker for me to piece it together the way I just know. That sounds silly to say, but
No, you know how you want to piece it together, and rather than being
Yeah.
like, can you just play just those notes and then, you know, guiding them through it and it taking 4 times longer?
Yeah,
You
well,
might as
when
well
you,
just be like,
yeah,
just
when
do
I,
it here, man.
yeah, when
Yeah,
I've made a riff or whatever, and I'm sitting there, you go right, and now on the 8th fret on the 2nd string, and then that, and then that, and then an up and a down pick, and then, you know, it's just sometimes easier for it.
Give it here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way,
literally.
you do have an alternative option for this. You could have your song written exactly how you want it before you come to the studio.
Yeah.
Alternatively, be
does that.
prepared. Yeah.
So what Joey Sturgis made us do, I mean, we were on tour in America in the back of the van with my laptop, and I had a UX2, Line 6 UX2.
Yeah.
Just there we had headphones. Dave had headphones on and a microphone and a towel over his head in the back of the van. We were just finishing the songs because Joey Sturgis was like, your songs will be demoed before you arrive at the studio. We were like, we're on tour, mate. And he was like, get it done. We were like, okay.
No, but it's like
That's how
we
we
said
do it.
earlier. Your songs will be done or they'll be demoed.
Yeah.
Having it demoed gives you a really good starting
Yeah,
point,
it
at
does.
very least. When you're coming in there and
They'll
going,
sound wank. They'll sound shit. Of course they will. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's-
because
that's
it's
the
even
purpose.
things like muscle memory with playing the guitar.
Yeah.
You know, if you're playing the riff for the first time there and then in the moment, you are not putting out that peak performance
Yeah.
on the guitar.
Not confident with it. Do you know what I
That's
mean?
something
Yeah.
we've always given advice, this advice to people before they come to record. Like, if you know what you're playing, if you know what you're singing, you'll be focused on the delivery of your performance,
Yeah.
which makes all the difference when it comes to recording.
And I guess being spontaneous and figuring it out is fine if you haven't booked 2 weeks to do a fucking 11 track. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
So if you book
that's-
into a studio and
It's
your
not
producer's
cheap.
planned out how long it'll take to record, assuming you know everything,
Yeah.
if you start rewriting stuff then and there, not even factoring in the fact that you have to do certain things in certain order, you can't just record your live drums, then change a bit, or this, that, people's schedules.
You're talking, if you go over in some studios, you're talking like $750 $1,000 a day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? This is what. So yeah, learn your shit. So yeah, be prepared, and when you go into recording, farting around and not being able to play a riff, it's not helpful
Yeah.
when you're paying literally.
It's like even if you have the demo and you know this is something I'll try and figure out straight away is like, is a singer going to be able to sing in that key?
Yeah.
Because you can be hungover and your guitar will sound the same.
Hmm.
I'm not saying singers they're always hungover in the studio, but
most likely though.
but what I am saying is that the singer can't just, you know, the guitar player will often pick the tuning of the song.
Yeah. So it's quirky at the time to be in drop C sharp.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
there
yeah.
you go.
Which is only half a step.
Yeah.
However,
Why'd you pick that?
That might be. Yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
Cool.
no
that's
idea.
that's out of my range.
It's
Dude.
like, let me ask you this: is that in your vocalist's range?
What is range?
Yeah, what is range? Let me explain.
No, so we'll make sure, and then if you've got the demo to start with, right? So we can drop it in the project,
Yeah.
chop it, move it up and down,
Yeah.
for playback. See where the singer's
You
like
might not be
peaking with the vocal, and
you might not be like in that kind of position to be able to get strands and stems and stuff like that at home. Do you know what I mean? Like obviously that's going a bit more into it, but generally speaking, there's probably one of you that's got a Cubase or Pro Tools or something that does a bit of recording and all that. But being that prepared going to it to do with your album is fantastic. Even just the scratch shit guitars that you've recorded, be able to drag them into the project and be like, right, so what did you do here? Sort of that, and you could even restructure as a producer, restructure the songs with the demo strands and stuff like that, and that's a really good way to be prepared to go do an album.
Well, do you know, we always did a similar thing where we would speak to bands before and be like, obviously, I know what you're looking for here, a good recording. But a little further than that, what are you looking to do? I mean, we don't insist on our contribution, you know, like songwriting wise. In fact, you know, in many ways, we don't want to. We want to focus on, you know, because our obsession in many ways is the production, you know, that's what I like doing. I'm like, oh, that snare sound, you know, that guitar tone, that's what I like doing. So in many ways, I don't care if it takes more than 30 seconds or a minute to get into a chorus. But I will say to a band, like, just some low-hanging fruit here, you know. Do you want to be popular? Do you want these things to happen? I'm not saying you can't be if you don't have classic structures, but when you start looking into popular songs, there's a reason they all follow certain do's and don'ts, or mostly stick to them. It's because they work. Particularly now, people don't have time for a 5-minute song. They don't really want it anymore. Or if they do, it's more of a niche thing once they're already into you.
Yeah.
So if you're a brand new band and you're trying to pick up and like, I know when I hear a brand new band and people are like, oh, check this band out. I'm like, 7-minute song? No fucking way.
No,
if it's
thank
like
you.
2 minutes, I'm like, go on,
Half an episode of Friends.
yeah, it's half an episode of Friends. Yeah, literally. But it's exactly that. So we'll have those conversations. You know, are you looking to actually kind of, you know, pick up and get noticed? If so, a 2-minute song that is pure juice that people are going to play 5 times in a row is a better shout, and that's probably worth looking into. Again, we won't insist that we do it, but it's just a little bit of wisdom from, like, you know,
That's
just letting you know, heads up, dude.
Well, from people that have worked on a lot of songs over the years.
Yeah, we worked on.
I honestly, I felt that was one of my hardest parts about being just an engineer at times.
Yeah.
We sat there like, this shouldn't be happening. And I'm like, all right, guys, what do you reckon to this? And they're like, oh no, I'm like, I can't help myself. But then I've just added on to my day.
Yeah, you don't want to get into it too much
that's-
because
yeah, I know.
you can pitch one little thing and you've had 4 hours on today.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Me and Sam were engineering an album together, and we basically ripped apart and redid the whole song, and it was mint. It was really good. I was like, I wish I had this fucking riff. Fuck, I wrote this riff. And then afterwards, the guitarist was like, so what do you think to our songs? I was like,
No, let's tell this story from.
I see you.
Let's tell this
I
story from
see
scratch
you.
because it's a really good story. You just sat there all day, and you'd rewritten this song, and it's effectively a brand new song. And then at the end, you know, they're all there playing Xbox, and you're there like writing away. And then at the end of the day, they're all dead impressed. Like, wow, that sounds like a really professional song.
were really
like
good.
I like how it goes into the chorus that quickly. It feels tight. This that.
Yeah, and then things go slow mo. And wait there, I'll turn away and then look into your eyes. What do you think to my song, man? Well, let me do that in the camera as well, so you feel what Joe felt. What do you think to my song, man?
Well, considering I just fucking sat here and wrote it, I think it's excellent.
Considering it's my song, I think it's fucking fantastic.
Do you know, I want to pick up on something you said earlier about the whole, like, oh, you know, some days I'm creative, some days I'm not. That ties back in with the whole formula thing and template thing.
Yeah.
Because we've been in situations before where we cannot fucking rely on being creative.
Absolutely.
We have to be like, okay, I'm not in the mood to write today, but this is what a song would do, you know, so let's do that. And
it's good
that
to have
might
a
start
fallback.
getting you.
It still happens, do you know what I mean? Like, we are experienced songwriters, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, it still happens where I'll sit down and I'm like, just strumming, and I'm like, I can't even be arsed, man.
Yeah.
If you had a template to fall back on, you can be like, right, okay, even if you're not confident with that riff or whatever, just put it in.
You get a
Put it
starting
into
point.
You get to
template
hear it
and
in
get your start-
context, don't you?
Get your starting point and build from that.
Yeah.
Maybe go back to the second verse and, all right, maybe do the last chorus, like the double one, and start on that or something, and then maybe some synthy strings or whatever you put over the top might spark something else. It's like, just, it's have a formula because you can crack on, basically.
It's a good way to bypass sort of brain fog.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that applies to anything and everything. Systems, processes at work. Like, fuck, I don't know what I'm doing today. All right, let me look at what I'm doing here. Let's do a bit of this, bit of chasing people up, whatever. I know what I'm doing. But if I just have to wing it from scratch every time, no matter what you're doing, it's too much. You know what I mean? You have to have kind of fallback processes for when you just aren't in the zone. Otherwise, you'll never get anything done. Touching back on writing in the modern way, which is recording straight into a DAW, like you say, most bands these days, one guy probably will have a laptop and some kind of basic home recording rig. Do you think that's better than how it used to be? Because we all
I think it's more cost effective.
more organised.
What do you mean? What do you mean better than how it used to be? As in going
into a rehearsal room and everyone just kind
Well,
of jamming.
It
was more involved that
just to
way.
get this out of my brain for you. I remember when you guys did you got your budget for your first album.
Maybe we did it in White Rooms, didn't we?
You booked in like what 40, 50 days
Something like that, yeah.
to write the album together.
I had a shitty like Yamaha 8-track thing that like you had to like hold something to get another thing on that channel. It was proper fucking shit. And that we did the whole album on that. That's how we wrote.
I remember you
We
booked in for
literally
all
mic'd
those
up the
days
kit.
and-
That's how we wrote. That was like old school But now it's right. We figured out what works. I do the writing. I'll send it to Dave. Do your thing. Maybe I'll have some input on that. But generally speaking, he does the vocals and the melodies and all that. And yeah, it's easier that way. And we've just
that's
figured
an
out what
important thing,
works.
isn't it? Knowing and accepting it, because a lot of bands don't like it when. Sorry, they'll like it when they're not sat there writing a song, you know, on a night or whatever. But then when it comes to the studio and all these final decisions are being made between the guy who wrote it and is married to it or whatever, and maybe the producer, it's all of a sudden they start coming in with ideas. It's like, dude, don't fuck with it now, you know, we're nearly done.
Yeah.
It can get messy.
Something else I
Certainly can.
want to talk about is going to the producers and how you have to have thick skin. I just want to tell you about the experience that we had with Joey Sturgis. Lovely guy, great at what he does. He works at night. I don't know if you experienced that.
Yeah, I did a full album with him.
Yeah, so we demoed the album, and then his engineer Nick Scott, very talented guy, great guy. Then we demoed it again with Nick, and then Joey would come in on the evenings because he gets up and like starts working at like 8, genuinely 8 p.m. You're there, you're like, fucking, this is weird. And then he'd put notes and stuff on the songs for us to go and see in the morning because we're still tracking with Nick in the day. And I remember I can't remember what song it was, but I did something at the end. It was like, I was like trying to completely replicate like the end of like Hearts Burst into Fire by Bullet. Do you know that? All that kind of slidey, all that repeaty stuff.
Yeah.
And I did that. And Joey highlighted that section and his note was just this: what the fuck is this? That's all he said. I was like, right, different outro then.
I remember you
Fuck
told me.
me.
I remember you told me a similar thing, and this is the thing. So, like with the bands we record, we've done some pretty high-profile stuff, but a lot of local stuff too. And it is that where we don't insist. I mean, there was a time actually when we were really like, we want to be superstar producers, and we really would be like, no, we have to do it this way. We were going down that route because that's when we were doing a lot of work with Joey and people like that, and we were really going down that route of like, dude, that's shit. We're not doing it, sort of thing. And we found, although that was good and our work was good, we were losing work from that because a lot of these local bands were just not in that same zone.
Upsetting people,
It's the bigger bands that are okay with this.
Yeah, they
they're totally
understand.
okay with like, okay, I get the big picture, and you know what? I got 25 other things to worry about. So
Yeah, that's
fuck
the thing. Like, if you take a riff out, it's not the end of that riff. Reuse it, recycle it, bring it back up. Do you know what I mean? I do that all the time. I wrote recently about 15 songs, and honestly, I kept about 2.
Yeah,
And I was like,
Yeah,
right, let's put a pin in them. I'll come back to them. But then I started finding this newer sound, and I was like, this feels much better. You can't get attached to your songs that you're writing. Like, maybe there is the one, but generally speaking, creativity kind of like spectrum changes daily and all the time. Like, if you get attached to something, you'll never finish a song.
well, it's, do you want to be an artist, or do you understand the process of
It's like,
what you're making?
It's a good way of exactly like if an artist actually painting something, like that's what he painted that day. It's not going to constantly going back to it and keep changing it. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's done. Move on.
Yeah,
to the
I
next
mean,
one.
So I mean, talk about not getting precious. When we did work on the Black with that skin, I don't know how many songs made it to the studio to be recorded. I think it was maybe 13, maybe 13, maybe 14, and 1 or 2 of those didn't get on the album. I can't remember how many is on the album now, but me and the lads wrote probably more than a whole album's worth of songs that all got scrapped.
Yeah.
There was at least 25, 26, 27 ideas, starters, mostly full songs, a lot of half songs, 3 riffs or whatever, a chorus with a, but you cannot be precious.
Yeah.
But it's about churning, well, it's not definitely about this, in my opinion. Keep churning them out and some of them will hit.
Yeah.
Don't try and make the perfect song every time because music is so subjective anyway that your perfect song is someone else's worst nightmare.
Yeah. But yeah, like, so I was writing for a band and I spoke to the singer and I was like, if I'm honest, dude, I know we've got 15, but I've only really like 2. And it was like, really? I was like, I think we should start again. It was like, really? I was like, yeah, mate. And but now the songs are like really good and like much better and stuff like that. But I'm still using parts of other ones. I'm like, right, that part was mint, that works in this one now. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't be like, oh, well, that's the end of that then. It'll come back and just remember them, keep them.
There's a lot of good songs out there, I think, between us all that we've worked on, whether it be writing, recording, whatever. It's like, that is a fucking shame that is not out there. But it wasn't right for the album or whatever might resurface one day. But It's just what it is. But anyway, I would say that's a real good overview to songwriting, and I think we should put a pin in it there. So if you guys enjoyed that, please like, share, subscribe, and thank you very much. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
See you later.